Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hogue, the author of Effortless English, Learn to Speak English Like a Native, and the father of the Effortless English system that trains you, teaches you, speak English fluently, you speak English confidently, you speak English powerfully, you speak English effortlessly when you commit to my VIP program. Commit to my VIP program today. Commit, don't quit at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. Go there, commit, don't quit. Book club today, chapters 12 to 15. We'll do 12, 13, 14, and 15. We're going to do 4 chapters because, as I said before, we have covered most of the main ideas of the book now, the major ideas, especially the ideas that are connected to our world. We live in Brave New World right now. So we're going to go a little faster now. I think we'll probably do this week, and then next week we'll finish the book. As usual, we'll take a break, 1 or 2 weeks. We'll take a break between books. Then we'll start a new book, and our next book will be about money. It's called Your Money or Your Life. Your Money or Your Life by Joe Dominguez and Vicki Robin, 2 writers for the next book. If you want to get that book, start looking at it, go ahead. So the title, Your Money or Your Life. Some people they told me there are several books with that same title, so be careful. You want the one that is written by Joe Dominguez, and Vicki Robin. Those are the writers of the book, the next book. All right, but today, Brave New World, continuing with Brave New World. We'll see John, the character of John. Remember, John did not grow up in Brave New World. He's, like a fairly normal person, but now he's in Brave New World, and through John's eyes, we see how ugly and horrible and evil Brave New World is, and it makes him go crazy, in fact. We'll see today, John starts to go crazy quite quickly living in this world. And there's a message right there, because some of you have maybe felt this yourself, that as you wake up, as you see all of this, you're living in Brave New World. Most people are blue-pilled, as we say. Most people like Brave New World. Most people are just kind of mindless, following all of these terrible things, sex, pleasure, drugs, alcohol, mindless distraction. And so when you wake up, when you're awake, when you see it clearly, like John does in the story, well, you can feel crazy. Why? Because most people are in Brave New World. Most people think it's normal. Most people don't question it. So when you see reality, when you try to be good, when you try to be virtuous, when you try to learn about tradition, when you look for truth and beauty and goodness, everybody else, or not everybody, but most other people will think you are crazy, right? Most other people will look at you like something's wrong with you. Why don't you follow with Brave New World? Why don't you care about all these things that we care about? And you can feel quite alone. You can feel quite alone in that situation as you wake up, like John. And maybe this is a bit of a warning that we have to be careful that we wake up. We don't want to become like John, because John, we will see, starting today in this chapter, chapter 12, he becomes very, 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 very angry. And that anger gets worse and worse the rest of the book. He becomes angry, very upset, and it kind of destroys him. It destroys him. So this is a warning to us, I think, that on one hand, Brave New World is terrible and evil, but when we wake up and see the truth, we must be careful. We cannot lose hope. We cannot become destroyed by our anger and maybe sadness, because it's very easy to do. It's very easy to be destroyed by anger when you really wake up. And some people are destroyed by anger. On Gab, you'll see this. Those of you who follow me on Gab. There are some very red-pilled people on Gab. That's the good news. But sadly, many of them are so full of anger, it's destroying them. It's destroying them. They're very unhappy, and they can't even connect with people socially. You know, we talked about this a little yesterday in the show, that you just have to block them. You know, I feel sad for them because I understand they're waking up. But like with John in this story, it's destroying them. Now, other people will choose sadness instead of anger. That's one common reaction, is anger, that can destroy you. The other thing that can destroy you is sadness, where you look around, you see all of this, the unhealthiness, the true terrible evil of it all, and you feel hopeless, like you have no hope, and you feel powerless, and you feel sad, and you become depressed. This can also destroy you. So it's a warning, I think, from Aldous Huxley, that while waking up is good, we need to see the evil. He's warning us in the whole book about the evil of Brave New World. But with John, he also shows us we must be careful, that after we wake up, we must be careful. We will be angry, probably. We will be sad sometimes, probably. But we cannot let these things destroy us. We must find our own power. We must find hope. We must find faith. We must find goodness. We must find our own strength, so that as we deal with Brave New World, as we fight against it, that we are not destroyed by anger, we're not destroyed by sadness, that we find our power. And this is why I quite like The Matrix, that we're doing The Matrix at the same time, because The Matrix, this is a sad story. In this story, John is not going to be saved. John is going to be destroyed. It's not a happy book, just like Animal Farm was not happy, right? It was a very sad ending, Animal Farm. And so is this one. But so he doesn't give us a solution. This is maybe I would say the weak point of Brave New World. On one hand, he gives us a very clear picture of the problem. He very clearly shows us the dangers. But Aldous does not give us a solution to make us powerful in this book. And that's probably a weak point of the book. But that's a strong point of the Matrix movie, because in the Matrix we see, luckily, that there is a good message of hope in the Matrix, and there's a message of finding our strength and finding our power, not being destroyed by sadness or anger. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's get into the book quickly. Let me summarize and go through these chapters. We're going quickly now because, as I said, we have the main ideas. So it's more just about the story right now. So chapter 12, what happens? Chapter 12, John, he's disgusted. He already sees what Brave New World is, and he doesn't like it. He hates it. He hates the people. He hates the whole thing. He thinks it's ugly. He thinks it's evil. So remember last chapter, he was going to parties, and Bernard became popular, right, as his friend. Well, in chapter 12, John just says, I'm not going anymore, right? I'm not going to any more parties. I'm not going to be part of this terrible world. So he doesn't go. This embarrasses Bernard, right? Because Bernard was like using him like a pet, like a dog, right? Showing him around. Bernard was using him to be famous. So now he says no. And again, in Brave New World, it's strange behavior. So everybody now thinks Bernard is strange again. So poor Bernard, he was popular for a very short time. Now he's back again. He's not popular. Okay, then the other important part here is that they meet with Helmholtz, remember his friend, who's also a little different. And Helmholtz writes a poem, P-O-E-M, a poem, poetry. Which seems like, well, Helmholtz maybe is waking up. Maybe Helmholtz is starting to wake up, right? He was just starting to become red-pilled. But John is impressed. He's like, yes, poetry, wonderful. So John thinks, oh, maybe Helmholtz is awake. Helmholtz is red-pilled. This is wonderful. So then John tells him some Shakespeare. But Helmholtz just laughs. Helmholtz cannot understand the Shakespeare. So here again, we see maybe a warning or a description where some people become red-pilled. They wake up, but they can only wake up a little bit. And this is the example of Helmholtz in this story. He has maybe the potential to wake up. He wakes up a little. He takes like a little red pill, but he cannot completely wake up. He can't understand Shakespeare. He can't understand the full red pill. He's maybe a little like in The Matrix. We'll see the character Cypher, who betrays Neo and Morpheus. He's kind of like that. In the Matrix, Cypher wakes up, but he's so angry, he's so upset, he can't fully wake up. He can't accept it. And so he wants to go back to the Matrix. And Helmholtz is a bit like that. All right, so that's it. Oh, and one last little point we see that in this, that Mustafa Mond, remember, he's one of the world controllers. There are like 12 world controllers. I think it's 12. And Mustafa Mond censors. He bans Shakespeare. He will not let people read Shakespeare. He thinks it's dangerous. But what we find, what's interesting, is that he himself actually understands Shakespeare. He appreciates it. So we see that just like in Animal Farm, the people at the top have different rules. Like Mustafa Mond, he can read Shakespeare and enjoy it and understand it. He's at the top. So he has different rules. He can read it. He can enjoy it. But he blocks it for everybody else. He bans it. He censors it for everybody else. Why? Because he wants to control everybody else. So he does not want anyone else to think deeply. And Shakespeare, brings up a lot of deep feelings. Shakespeare has a lot of deep ideas. So he does not want normal people thinking. He does not want normal people to wake up. He does not want normal people to challenge him or the other rulers. So he bans it for everyone else, but not for himself. And this is what we saw in Animal Farm, right? With the idea of communism. Everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others, meaning all the normal people are equal, meaning they're at the bottom. But the people at the very top, the Communist Party officials or the bankers, depends which system we have. But whatever the system, it doesn't matter if it's which version, if it's Brave New World or Animal Farm. The ones at the very top have their own rules, which are totally different. They do anything they want. The rules are only for normal people. All right, now we go into chapter 13. And we're back with Lenina again. Now, Lenina is attracted to John. She wants to have sex with him because, again, in Brave New World, what? Everybody just has sex with everybody. There's no love in Brave New World. She maybe is feeling some attraction. She maybe is even feeling some love, but she doesn't understand love. She does not really have the ability to love. So for her, everything has to be just sex, sex, sex. We see this in our world right now. How many people, women and men, are confused about sex and love and really can't love because they just, in their mind, it's just sex, 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 sex. And they don't even have the ability to love anymore. They don't even understand what love is. They can't feel it. And so she's like this. And John is resisting. He doesn't want to have sex with her because he kind of is attracted to her, maybe starting kind of in love with her. And in his mind, then he does not want to have sex with her immediately because he feels that's cheap. It's not good. That, there should be some self-control. He has the idea of marriage, all of these things. So he resists. So finally, she just takes off all her clothes and tries to jump on him. And she's very surprised that he gets angry. He pushes her away. He threatens her. He calls her a strumpet, which means like a prostitute. He's super, super angry. Now, why is he angry? He's angry because he feels something like love for her, but she's just trying to have like cheap sex. And he knows she has sex with lots and lots and lots and lots of men. Any man, she will have sex with them. So there's nothing special. So he actually is disgusted by her and her behavior. But again, we have the problem that he's so disgusted, right? So he hates it so much, but the anger is starting to destroy him, that he can't control the anger. What's happening to him in Brave New World? It's so ugly, it's so terrible that he can't handle it, and now this anger is growing and growing and growing and growing so strong, it's starting to destroy him. It gets worse in the next chapter, chapter 14, because his mom is dying. He gets a call that his mom, Linda, is dying. Remember, his mom grew up in Brave New World. So she went to the reservation. He grew up in the reservation as kind of a normal human, but his mom still kind of programmed. And he goes to this place where people die. It's kind of like a hospice. We call this a hospice now, where people go and they die. But again, he becomes very angry now because his mom is dying. His mom is dying, but it's a terrible place. There's no meaning. There's no human connection. There's no God. There's no faith. There's nothing deep or meaningful for these people dying. They just give them drugs, right? He's saying soma filled the ward. So it's just full of soma. And they just try to make everybody just pretend to be happy, even when they're dying. Just distract them. Just give them lots of drugs so they don't think about dying. Now, this is also true now. Certainly in America, this is the way people die. They avoid the idea. They don't want to think about it. They give them lots of drugs. You know, often the drugs are for pain, but it also makes their mind not clear. So the idea is just avoid the idea of death. Don't recognize it. Don't deal with it because it's so painful. Just try to avoid it, the idea. Don't think about it. This is American culture. It's sad. Okay, so Linda does die. She dies, and he becomes super angry because she's dying, and he's with her, and so he's trying to talk to her. He's trying to connect with her, right? This is his mother, and he loves her, and he's trying to have some kind of meaningful conversation with her, say goodbye. But she's just, she's in the drugs, and then she doesn't realize it's him. She starts talking about some man that she, was attracted to, that she had sex with before. And he becomes really angry because this place where she's dying is just full of children running around, being noisy. There's no respect for death. And when she finally dies and he gets no meaning, no connection, he becomes super, super, super angry. And this is where the anger really begins to destroy him then. I mean, we can understand why he's angry, but it's still sad. And then kind of another point right at the end, Linda's dying and he's trying to talk to her about something deep and meaningful, and she's just repeating the propaganda. Everyone belongs to everyone. Everyone belongs to... She can't think. She's just still programmed from Brave New World. But then kind of right at the end, when she realizes it's the end, when she realizes death is real, she becomes terrified, very afraid. And then she dies. So I told you it's not a happy book. And it's definitely not a happy ending. Okay. Finally. John, chapter 15. John is really, really, really angry now because of how his mom died. It's not a good death. It's not a meaningful death. He's super angry. And so He sees all the deltas. They're kind of like the normal, regular people, not too smart. They're not at the top. They're not at the bottom. And they're all like waiting to get their drug, soma, right? They're all waiting to get the drug. And John is angry, and he looks at them. They all look the same. They're all mindless. They can't think about anything deep or meaningful. They're just, brainwashed zombies. And they're just waiting for their drug. And this makes him super angry. So he starts yelling at them, "Don't take the drug! Don't take the drug! Wake up! Wake up!" Right? He's trying to red pill them. And of course, they can't see it. They don't believe him. They don't understand him. Right? This is something we've all dealt with in the comments. We talk about it all the time. How do we wake other people up? It's not easy. Again, we get this message this time in Brave New World that most people can't wake up. They're not ready. So they don't want to wake up. So what does he do? He grabs the drugs and he throws them all away, right? He takes all the soma, this like big box or whatever of soma, and he throws it away so they can't have it. And what do? Do they appreciate this? No, they go crazy. They all go crazy. Without their drugs, they become super crazy and they have a riot. riot, right? This is a riot. So they're all going violent and fighting, and they all go crazy because they need their drug to stay happy. If they don't have the drug, then these feelings come up and they might start thinking, and they can't handle that. They need the drugs to hide their feelings all the time. So without the drugs, he throws away the drugs. They all go crazy. They're all fighting big fights, and it's a riot. It's, and the police come and they arrest John. They also arrest Bernard and Helmholtz because they're all together. And Helmholtz actually participates in the riot. He actually kind of jumps in and he enjoys the fighting and everything. So again, we see where Helmholtz has maybe a possibility to wake up, but it's limited. And Bernard, we see, is a coward. Bernard is afraid. Bernard's also not a very nice character because while he is kind of awake, he has no courage. He is, he's full of fear. So he's not he also, we see, it's another warning, I guess, because we see in him, okay, he is red-pilled. He's kind of waking up. But on the other hand, he's afraid to do anything. He's weak. So we see, it's like I said, it's very sad. It's not a good message because we have John is totally awake, but he's full of anger. He's being destroyed by anger. We have Bernard, who's maybe not 100%, but he's definitely waking up, but he's full of fear. He's weak. And we have Helmholtz, who's waking up a little bit, but his mind is still too closed. He can't really fully wake up. So there's no happy ending in this story. It's kind of a warning and a warning and a warning. It's and that's our chapters. But it's basically, he's showing us all of the, how terrible Brave New World is, which we all know. We live in it. But he's showing us kind of like, well, when you wake up, you have to be careful because anger will destroy you. Weakness will destroy you. If you only wake up a little bit, it's not going to help you. So we're seeing all of these things that don't work. And luckily in the Matrix movie tomorrow, we see a little bit more positive message of how do we get strong? How do we deal with the anger? How do we fight back? And we'll talk about that tomorrow, but it's not this book. This book does not discuss this. All right, let's get into our comments and questions and see your ideas on these chapters. Demet says, drugs are a temporary solution. We need to find peace inside of us. At the very moment of now, when we are living now, this is enlightenment. It's the wake up of real consciousness. Yes. Well said. Very well said. Very well said. That, I would say, is a first step that it's totally fine to be angry. It's very normal to be angry and probably healthy. It's healthy even to feel sadness at this, to look around and see, like, this is so sad. Also healthy. But then what? We have to deal with these emotions. This is the main thing, right? That how do you deal with these? Number one, you can't hide from them. You can't take drugs or just try to distract yourself and pretend you're not angry, you're not sad. No, you have to deal with them now in this moment. That yes, I'm really angry, or I'm really sad, or I feel hopeless, or I feel weak. That's the first step. But you can't stay there. You've got to keep going, and you've got to find some source of strength and power inside of you so that you have some self-discipline, self-control. You gain that strength inside, and you learn how to use the anger to make yourself stronger. Use the sadness to make yourself more kind and more wise. You take these emotions and you use them as kind of like fuel, as energy for something positive and good. Yeah, like Ali said, Bernard is like Cypher in the Matrix. He's a bit like that, where he sees the truth, but he's not ready to totally accept it. He's afraid. Yeah, like Humble Boy here says, there's one thing that makes me laugh in our world. People on social media seem to be so happy, but when you know them, you know they are really miserable, unhappy people. Brave New World. I mean, you're describing Brave New World. In Brave New World, on the surface, they all seem to be so happy, right? It's just everything's fun, Brave New World, sex and fun. But then just below, we realize they're actually very unhappy and they're living terrible lives, right? Like we see with Lenina, just a little frustration. She likes John, but John doesn't want to have sex with her, and Lenina then she can't handle the emotions. She's miserable, right? We see this with kind of all of them. Without the drugs, what happens? They all go crazy. They have a riot. They all start fighting and going crazy. They totally lose control without their drugs. So, yeah, you're right. On social media, Instagram is a good example of this, where people are always posting photos and everyone's trying to look so wonderful and great, but many times it's just pretend. It's just pretend. Another example of this is celebrities, the media celebrities, all these actors and actresses and models and that, talk shows, and they all seem to be, they're so smart and so happy and so rich. But then we find out later from their private lives, right? It comes out through the gossip stuff. No, they're not. They're miserable, miserably unhappy, terrible people. Yeah, like Zibinek's got a good point. The world is full of horrible things and people, but also full of great ones. So we should find these and shouldn't be black-pilled. Yes, there's no reason to be black-pilled. That's right. It's only part of the picture. Like I like to be careful, for example, when we say the world. And this is kind of it's a common phrase in English. The world is terrible, the world. But when people say this, they're really talking about human society, modern human society. They say the world is terrible. Well, the world's not terrible. The mountains aren't terrible. The trees aren't terrible. The oceans aren't terrible, right? just for example, that's the world. The world's beautiful. It's amazing. And the same is also true. People. There are plenty of very nice, kind, wonderful people and beautiful people. They're not in the news. They're not in the media. They're not famous, most of them, but they exist. They are around you. So, right, we have to be careful, because when we look at Brave New World, just the media, our devices and all this, yeah, we get an ugly, terrible picture, but it's not the full picture. It's not the full picture. And to avoid being black-pilled, another nice phrase here, slang, meaning avoid being depressed or super angry, we have to see the full picture and realize, oh no, there are also wonderful people now and in the past. There's also all of the natural beauty. There is a great amount of beauty and truth and goodness in this world, in this life. And we just have to notice it. We just must notice it. And we don't notice it sometimes because we're too focused on the bad stuff. Michael asks, what's the ultimate goal of Brave New World? What do the people at the top want to reach with these actions? They want total, complete, 100% control over everyone from before birth until death. They want total and complete power. If you put it another way, they want to be gods. They don't want to be people. They want to be as gods. Of course, it's impossible. But these people are evil and crazy. But that's their crazy dream, to be like gods. That does not end well, usually. I'd say never. Mehdi Faraji says, Elon Musk has a plan to integrate the human mind with AI. It means moving from Brave New World to the Matrix, laying electrodes in the brain to store more information. Yeah, that's insane. See, Elon Musk may be one of them. That's horrible. I've never heard him talk about that, but don't let him do it. Yeah, like Ibrahim Ali says, just in the beginning, you'll have anger, sadness, and fear. But after that, you'll feel strong. You will know how to deal with it and how to fight back. Yeah. We'll talk about this tomorrow with the Matrix, that there is a period of time that different for different people. But the good part is when you are, instead of being blue-pilled, because when these blue-pilled people, they're not dealing with reality. So they make bad decisions. Over time, their bad decisions get bigger and bigger. They're not strong people. And when you deal with reality, even when it's ugly, when it's painful, but when you deal with it, and then you finally learn to deal with it and solve problems and overcome it, even when it's ugly, it makes you stronger and stronger and stronger. And eventually that does make you happier and more effective and more powerful. Free and console yourself with Brave New World by living simply and noticing natural beauty. Those are two wonderful things to do. Get out in nature. If you find yourself feeling really upset with humanity or society, get away from it. Go out into nature. Go out in the mountains or the woods or the ocean, whatever. Get away from it. Just get out where natural beauty, quiet. It's very healing. Yeah, Namaz with good practical advice here. Namaz says, you can be angry, but don't decide anything while you're angry. There's no truth or intelligence in anger. You should be calm first. Yeah, that's just overall good advice. Sometimes you'll be angry. And it's also true, I'd say any strong emotion, really. You might feel really sad sometimes. It's okay. But don't make important decisions during those times. Wait until you calm down. You're feeling better. You're feeling stronger. Your emotions are calm. Then make decisions about what to do in life and what to do with your life, especially important decisions. Yeah, like Sarah says, when I listen to Brave New World, my motivation drops because of all these terrible things around us. Right. So that's why we have to be careful. We have to understand the ugly truth and the nature of the social disease. This does help us because it helps you understand why things are so terrible. Why, when you look around, everybody's staring at their phone? Why do your friendships and relationships seem, worse now? Why do people seem like they can't listen anymore? They can't concentrate anymore? That they're, that all of these problems, why does it seem that, the younger and younger and younger kids, they're pushing them to have sex and they're doing all this terrible stuff? Well, now you know why. It's not an accident. Okay, people at the top are doing this very consciously, deliberately. So it's good to know that. It's good to wake up and see the truth and know it. But then you must keep going and build your strength and fight back. Yeah, well, Christy's good point. As parents, we have to teach our children to be virtuous as early as possible. Show them by example. Yeah, I think we have to do two things with kids in this brave new world. Number one, the first thing you do when they're young is, teach them virtue and goodness. Keep them away from the ugliness and the propaganda and all that. As they get older, though, you have to teach them about it. So don't just let them watch lots of movies and stuff. But what you can do is little by little, you show them these things. You show them the propaganda. You explain what it is. You explain the messages. You show them the techniques of mind control, of propaganda, the camera techniques, the lighting techniques, the words that are used, all of these things. You get them to read books like Animal Farm, and you discuss it. And Brave New World and 1984, Fahrenheit 451, you discuss them all, and you look for these things out in the real world. You prepare them. So when they become adults, young adults, they see it all. They're like they've been red-pilled. You've got to red-pill your kids. So it's not enough to protect them. Protecting them when they're young, okay, because they can't understand anything. So when they're young, you just protect them from all of it as best you can. But as they get older, like into the teenage years, then you can't protect them forever, right? Because if you protect them, then suddenly they go out into Brave New World. It'll be a huge shock to them. And they either maybe they're like John and they kind of go crazy, or they just totally believe it all and become super blue-pilled. So you have to actually, in those teenage years, you must prepare them, train them, like Morpheus does with Neo. Vladislav says, my cousin understands phones are evil for his 9-year-old son, but he can't help buying it for him. Well, that's sad because all his friends have phones. They pressure him, and he will pressure his parents. Well, that's a failure of your cousin. I don't understand this. He's 9 years old, and they are adults, the parents. It's your job as a parent. You're the boss, okay? You're the leader. Doesn't matter if sometimes your kids don't want, maybe your kid wants sugar all the time. You don't give it to him. It doesn't matter what he wants. It doesn't matter what the other kids say. People are so weak about social pressure. So your cousin should just say no, period. And if his child's unhappy, oh well, he's unhappy about it. He'll live. Okay. Yeah, Tata says it's scary to deliver kids at this horrible time. First thing you must tell your baby is not rainbows and cupcakes, how to fight and survive in this mad world. Right. So again, like I say, I recommend when they're young, you keep them away from it. And as they get old enough to understand, I don't know, certainly teenage years, maybe a little before that, you gradually show them and teach them all this. Prepare them. So they're ready. When they go out in the world, they see it all clearly, and they have that strength and power, and they'll be much happier. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Ali Salahi says books are one of the best tools to get red pilled and also fight against Brave New World. Yeah, right. Especially, philosophical books and old books, classic books are very red pilled compared to today in general. Yeah, like Demet with another nice comment. You're not your emotions. Your mind creates them. So do meditation. Meditation is absolutely a good tool for this, for red pill and self-control, self-discipline, many other things. Just, we had that nice talk with Archayarji about that. Observe your feelings without judging. Take deep breaths and the anger leaves soon. Right, so it's kind of a middle way again. You're not pushing the anger away. You're not hiding from it. You're not taking drugs to hide it. But you're also not just, acting on it constantly and becoming crazy with anger. It's a middle way. It's not always easy, but it's a good point. Yeah, like Aberdamani says, that's another sad example about this. I can't believe these young children. My brother's 8 years old. He got attached to phones and video games that contain wars and murder. I do my best to prevent him from that because my dad doesn't care much. So I should care instead. Well, good for you. Good for you for doing that. But how sad is that? 8 years old? Ayub, what about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck? It's a nice book. Yeah, I can't remember the details of it, but I read it. It's nice. It's really about not caring about social pressure so much. Doing what is right. Don't worry about what is popular. Yeah, so Preeti also is recommending meditation. I think if we really want escape Brave New World, we must meditate daily because meditation is the only way we can control our mind. Indeed. Meditation is excellent for this, to not only controlling your mind, but understanding it and seeing and becoming free from the mind control, the programming. Meditation is one way, one of the best ways to make yourself free from that. It takes time, but it will help. Yeah, well, like Al says, or AL, for a start, parents must be red-pilled. Without that, children have no chance. Well, good point. Blue-pilled parents will raise blue-pilled children. So this is correct. This is the hard part, right? This is why you have, 8-year-old, 7-year-old, 6-year-old kids using all this garbage because the parents are completely blue-pilled. They're like Lenina, they're like all the others in Brave New World. They don't even see it. Vladisław says maybe we should start a meditation challenge. Yeah, maybe we should. Now, this is interesting. Now, see, this is cool. Lisa says, it's very interesting. My daughter red-pilled me. Nice. She was very independent-minded from an early age. She refused to be influenced. Good for her. And see, we see this. It's kind of like Neo in The Matrix again. That it's hard to know why sometimes. But some people, special, I don't know what it is, but they just seem to be a little more awake. They have this independent nature. They just, even by themselves, somehow, they see there's something wrong, or they feel it. It's an intuition, and they somehow red pill themselves. They just look for it through books, through other things, and then they can influence others. And that's kind of, I think, what like Neo is. And people say, how do they know he's the one? They never explain it in the movie, but it's kind of that idea. And indeed, like I'm very red-pilled compared to my parents. My mom is not at all, and my dad maybe a little. And of course, I'm trying, I do my best to red pill them, but it's hard, not easy. But that's great, Lisa. Fantastic. You're lucky. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Cleefy. This is a common thing now. Yesterday, I was in a party. I noticed everybody in his own world, looking at his phone. No discussion, no laughter, as we used to do in the past. Really, we are controlled subconsciously. Yeah. I was just talking to, I met an Effortless English member today here in Osaka, Indo, and we were talking, and kind of the same idea, like I was saying that sometimes I'll look out like a playground, right, with kids, fairly young kids, like 10 years old. And I remember recently I saw there's these 3 boys, 10 years old, and they're all, use my dead phone here. Each one has a phone, and they're all just standing next to each other, and they're all just staring at the phones, pushing buttons, outdoors on a playground for a long time. And I was just thinking, this is some kind of like science fiction movie. It is Brave New World. Like, what is wrong with? I mean, at that age, at age 10, they should be out running around and doing things, right? Like being active in the real world. Certainly, that's what I did, and what, for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years and longer, that's what humans have done. And now they're just staring at a screen. They're all together, but they're not talking. They're not connecting with each other. They're not aware of the real world at all. It is a dystopia. It's a sad, weird kind of science fiction hell. And you'll see this, you'll see it at restaurants where you'll see a family, like 4 people, like parents and the kids, and all of them have phones. Each one has their own phone. They're all staring at their phones. They're not talking to each other. They're not looking at each other. How sad is this? What is wrong? Yes, Hickman said exactly correct. Well said. Strongly said. Hickmanson says, lazy blue-pilled parents find it easier to acquiesce. Great vocab word. You're quite advanced, I noticed, Hickmanson, just from your vocab use and your excellent sentence structure. Anyway, I'll explain that word in a minute. To acquiesce to the whims of their spoiled child, than to stand firm and teach them values. Well, that is very well said. So let me, just for those of you, that's a little more advanced, so I'll teach you the vocab he's using. Lazy blue-pilled parents find it easier to acquiesce. To acquiesce basically means to surrender, right? To give up, to surrender, to be weak. To the whims just means the emotional desires, the sudden desires of their spoiled child or children. Yeah, so exactly. Parents are weak, or blue-pilled, or both, and they're supposed to be leaders. They're supposed to be strong. This is part of your job as a parent. But instead, they're weak, and their child just wants something, and they just acquiesce. They just surrender. They say, oh, okay, because they don't want to deal with the child being angry. They don't want to deal with the child yelling or screaming or crying, so they just give them anything they want. Instead of, like he says, to stand firm means to stand strong and teach them values, which is what your job is as a parent. Your job is to be strong and teach them what's right and what's wrong and do what is best for them. And if they cry, they cry. And if they're unhappy, they're unhappy. Sometimes they will be. This is part of life. I mean, you were a child. Were you always happy? Huh? Were you always happy? Everything your parents said, were you happy? I wasn't. Right? I wanted things when I was a little kid. Now I look back, I realize that, of course, my parents did the right thing. Like I liked sugar. So I wanted to, in the morning eating breakfast, I wanted to add like a huge amount of sugar to my food. And my parents said no, they would not let me do it. And maybe I complained. I'm sure I complained a lot. And I didn't understand at that time. Why not? It tastes good. I like it. Well, now I know why. Of course. Now, what if my parents were weak? What if they just say, oh, okay, fine, and just let me just eat huge amounts of sugar? Well, then it would have caused health problems and not good. So, yeah, I didn't like it at the time. For a long time, I didn't like it. But so what? It doesn't matter. The kids can't understand everything. So you have to do your job as a parent. And this is any kind of leadership, even when you're even not parents, even if you're a leader in a business. Guess what? Your employees will not always be happy. Sometimes you do something, you make a decision, it's because it's the right thing to do, and some employees will not like it. Even some customers might not like it. And it doesn't matter because it's the right thing to do, and you have to be strong and do what is right. Read a book about Steve Jobs. The guy was not always nice, okay? He was a tough boss. He was very tough with some employees. Many Apple employees did not like him. But he did what was right to create that business. And now that he's gone, Apple is not as good, clearly. So sometimes as a leader, you must make the tough decisions. And definitely as a parent, you have to. Very, very important. Yeah, like Krishnamurti, great. Quite a famous quote, actually, from Emmanuel Adam. This is a quote from Krishnamurti. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. That is exactly right. So Brave New World is sick. It's a sick society. So be well adjusted. That means to fit in, to be, to follow the rules, to be normal. Well, if your society is very healthy and good and true, well, to be normal is good. It's good to be normal in a good society. But in an unhealthy society, in a sick society, in an evil society, to be normal is very bad. To be normal means you are sick. To be normal means you are evil. Right? To be normal means you are not following the truth. So being normal becomes very bad. And right now, in our world society, this globalist society, being normal is a bad thing. I'll give the very small example in the United States with health. To be normal is to be fat and unhealthy. Fat, unhealthy, lazy, and sick. That's normal in America. That is normal, meaning over 50% of the people are fat, unhealthy, and lazy. It's normal. They all think it's normal. Most of them don't realize something's wrong, but in fact, it's sick. And it's bad. So you don't want to be normal in America with your health. You don't want to eat normal food in America because normal in American society is sick. You want to be abnormal, meaning not normal. In a good way, meaning you want to be healthy and fit and thin. Right? And this is true for all things. Okay, a few more. Couple more, and then I've got to go. And tomorrow we'll be back with the Matrix with a little happier message tomorrow. I know, I also am kind of looking forward to finishing Brave New World. It's a great book. It's been fantastic, very powerful, but not particularly happy. Yeah, like Aberdamani says, people have become somehow brainless. Well, the somehow it's not by accident, it's the school system, it's the media, it's this whole Brave New World system. They have been made brainless, designed to be brainless. The whole society is designed to make you brainless. Do some research. There's some articles, I think there are probably a few books about the topic of social media. It's not an accident that people are zombies, that they're addicted. They design social media to be addictive. It's designed. The phones are designed. They do it. They research how to make it more and more and more and more addictive. So it's not an accident. Yeah, well, here's, I can't read it because it's written in Arabic, but Dear Teacher, Brave New World is global, not only America. Well, definitely it's global. It's everywhere. For example, here in Sudan, we're living in Brave New World. Everyone's busy all the time. They have no time. Yeah, of course it's global. It's everywhere. Maybe America, in some areas, not all areas, but in some areas, America's maybe, the worst, but it's bad everywhere. I've traveled to a lot of places, and I'm living in Japan, so the playground example, that's an example from Japan. I've seen it in Thailand. Visited Thailand. I've seen it in Vietnam. I've seen it everywhere I've traveled. Every country I have been to, I've seen it. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's getting worse and worse. So you're absolutely, it's global. It's a globalist plan. Okay, Alex Tyshan says, have you read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand? Would you like to put it in your book club? I actually have not read it, but it's a similar theme, but I think a little more positive maybe. But I'll tell you what, I'll read it first, and then yes, maybe we'll add it. Anger's like a poison, says Fukdin. When you're angry, it looks like you're drinking a poison. You want others to die. I always remember this phrase every time I get mad. Yeah, I think it's a Buddhist, a Buddha quote. When you're becoming super angry and full of hate, that it's like you are drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But of course, you're poisoning yourself. So this is why we have to learn how to deal with it, because it just destroys ourselves, right? The anger is, John is not destroying Brave New World. Brave New World's not going to be destroyed. John is destroying himself with going too far with the anger. All right, we're going to finish with Inge here. Last one. Too much digital, virtual world around us. I prefer leisure time to take my dog for a brisk walk. It's very helpful. My proposal after this session, everyone should take a long stroll. I like it. Everyone go for a long walk. Get outside right now if you can. It's a little late for me, but I agree. That's a good way to, when you start feeling bad about all this, that you just, get out in nature like someone else mentioned. Getting out in nature. And that might even in the city, even just getting outside and walking. Turn off the phone, leave the phone at home. You don't need it. And go for a nice long walk, go to a park. Just look around. If you're living closer to nature, get around trees or other nice parts. And do it every day, an hour, 2 hours a day outside, going for a nice walk. No phones, nothing, none of that. And it really does. It helps a lot. That and reading old books. They're actually very simple solutions to start with. All right, we'll be back again tomorrow. Brave New World tomorrow. The Matrix tomorrow. Brave New World next week. We'll finish Brave New World, I think. But tomorrow, The Matrix. And we're getting into the fun part of The Matrix now. There'll be some action scenes, which I'll skip because there's not much talking. But I recommend watch them because the action scenes are some of the most entertaining parts of that movie. Very cool, very well done. And we'll have some more, nice speeches in the Matrix coming. Some speeches between the agents and Neo, the agents and Morpheus, and we'll see Cypher, going to betray everybody. But anyway, cool messages coming about how to fight back, because Neo, he's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and the fight now against the Matrix, against the machines, is coming. So tomorrow, join me. That'll be on Twitch TV, twitch.tv tomorrow. All right, lots of love to you guys, and have a great day. As always, join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com, effortlessenglishclub.com.